Good morning students, hope you are doing well. So in this whole video lecture series we are talking about June 2025 examination question paper with detailed explanation of all the questions. So in this video we are going to look at only one question because there are 4 to 5 options in that particular question, and we have to go in detail of all those 3 to 4 topics because in the past we have seen the same questions repeated again in the examination. But before beginning this video, you can join our ongoing batch on all these competitive exams in English literature. Here are some reviews from the students that will help you make the decision.
I have qualified GRF this time because of Nakul Grover sir only. Without his notes, it was impossible for me to crack such a big exam.
Without you, it was impossible for me to crack the NET exam.
I have qualified my UGC NET in my first attempt.
He also acts like a guardian as well as a mentor. In every difficult path, he's always available whenever we need him.
My immense thanks to Nakul Grover sir and Limitless Literature.
It is very helpful and easy to understand. He supported me a lot.
I would definitely recommend Limitless Literature to all the NET aspirants out there.
Limitless literature with limitless guidance.
If you want to crack UGC NET with GRF in English literature, I highly recommend you to join with Limitless Literature.
And now without any further ado, let's continue with this discussion. We had a question in examination to put the works in chronological order. All these works are from post-colonial literature, and some of the works like In Other Worlds, Nation and Narration we have already seen in past papers. Okay, we have also seen Max Weber's work in the past paper. So it is important from now onwards to remember at least the years, the publication years of some of the works in literary theory because 3 to 4 questions come from the chronology of these particular works, and of course you have to understand some of the key concepts in every single work. Alright, so the question was, choose the correct chronological order of the given works on post-colonial criticism. A. In Other Worlds, Essays in Cultural Politics by Gayatri Spivak. We have already mentioned the publication year in the brackets, that is 1987. Next, Post-Colonial Literary Studies, First 30 Years by Robert P. Marzak, 2011. C. Nation and Narration by Homi Bhabha, 1990. D. The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism by Max Weber, 1904. E. Modernity at Large, Cultural Dimensions of Globalization by Arjun Appadurai, 1996. So the correct answer is A, C, E, D, B. So in this video we will look at all the important works, and that's in the options. We are going to discuss the 3 important works: In Other Worlds, Nation and Narration, and the work by Max Weber. Okay, so we will discuss these 3 works and the important concepts that we may find in the examination based on the previous year, and based for the competitive examination point of view we are going to look at every single thing. Alright, so let's start with the most famous one first, and that is Nation and Narration by Homi Bhabha, 1990. In this work, Bhabha's central argument is that nations are not natural. The identity of a nation is created through repeated stories, repeated narratives told by the people. So what is the narrative going on in India? Okay, what is the narrative right now? India is a Hindu Rashtra. Right now this is the narrative. It is Hindustan, it is Bharat. So that's the current narrative of India and how it has been created. This narrative is created constantly, performed, repeated by literature, movies, media, political speeches, cultural rituals, festivals, and everyday conversation. Okay, so this narration is created by the movies, film industries, literature, Bharat, Hindu Rashtra. That's how a nation gets identity. But then nation's identity is not also fixed. If tomorrow a new narrative is built, the whole identity of nation will be changed. So Bhabha took this idea of nation and narration from the concept of imagined communities of Benedict Anderson. But Benedict Anderson's research was limited. Here, Homi Bhabha added a new concept in this theory, which is known as ambivalence. Remember, ambivalence has both negative as well as positive. Okay, negative as well as positive. India has positive points. Positive points means spirituality, Okay, India has positive spirituality, India has space missions, growing economy, festivals, culture. Okay, everything is here in India, and that makes us feel proud. But on the other hand, India also has negative. India, citizens of India feel disgusting on looking at the growing corruption, growing rape cases, murders, lack of basic facility, gender inequality, discrimination. So Bhabha says that every nation has one property, that is ambivalence. Ambivalence means when we have two opposite or contradictory feelings about the same thing at the same time. Two emotions, feeling proud as well as disgusting. Being an Indian, I am proud. Being an Indian, I am disgusting, and that's normal. That's a property of every nation. It's not only about India. It's everyone. Everyone. If you go to America, you will find the both positive and negative things that the citizen of Americans feel. So ambivalence is a property of a nation. Now here we have another concept of Homi Bhabha, pedagogical and performative. Alright, so we have seen that nation gets an identity through narrative, and how this narrative is transferred to the citizens. It is through two terms, pedagogical, which means pedagogy. Okay, through schools, museums, official histories, government ceremonies. But then we have performative. Performative means when we live the actual life, being an Indian, how we are actually living the life. Looking at our surrounding, we feel that government report is saying that India is growing, but India is messy. When we find the India, the roads are broken. The minorities are not safe in India. Women are not safe in India. South Indians always have a fear of getting the Hindi language imposition on them. And this narrative does not fit the actual narrative set by the government. Pedagogy is a narrative set by the government. Performative is something we are living. So every nation has both positive and negative. And it is common for every nation. There are pedagogical things and there are narratives that are built upon. That is a property of every nation. We feel proud as well as we feel disgusting at the same time. Okay, and we cannot do anything about it, but the knowledge of it makes us more tolerant. Okay, so now let's discuss another option, which was in other worlds. That is an essay, a collection of essay written by Gayatri Spivak Chakravarti. You see, there must be some books that should always remain in your bookshelf, whether you read these books or not. For example, you must purchase books like P.K. Nair, Literary Theory, M.H. Abrams, Literary Terms. You are going to be assistant professor in the future, so at least you should be having these such sort of collection in your bookshelf. So you must include this particular book by Gayatri Spivak Chakravarti in your bookshelf also. In the past, we have always seen the publication year of this particular writer, but now we may expect something else in the December examination. For example, Gayatri Spivak Chakravarti talked about To the Lighthouse. She talked about W.B. Yeats in this particular work. So they can simply ask you which of the following writers have Gayatri Spivak Chakravarti has talked in her work in the other worlds. So W.B. Yeats could be the right answer. Mahashweta Devi's could be the right answer. So she has talked about a lot of things. We will look at the index. There are 14 essays in this particular book of collection, like essay of collection. So please write down the titles of all the essays, because definitely one question can easily made it in the future from here. So let's start with it. We have part 1, literature, where we have the latter as cutting edge. Second, finding feminist readings, Dante, Yeats. Third, unmaking and making into the lighthouse. Next, sex and history in the prelude, books 9 to 13. Next, feminism and critical theory. So that is part 1 of this particular book. Now we have part 2, where we have some other essays, reading the world, literary studies in the 80s, explanation and culture, marginalia, the politics of interpretations, French feminism in an international frame, scattered speculation on the question of value. Next we have part 3, Entering the Third World. Here she is talking about Indian writers. Draupadi by Mahashweta Devi. Next, essays, subaltern studies, deconstructing historiography. Next, Breast Giver by Mahashweta Devi. Next, a literary representation of the subaltern, a woman's text from the Third World. These are the 14 titles you have to remember, because one easy question can easily be made upon from this particular index, and we have already seen 3 to 4 times in the past asking something from Gayatri Spivak Chakravarti. Publication year has been asked 1 or 2 times in the past, and also remember that it was published in 1987. In the future, they may ask which of the stories of Mahashweta Devi are talked in this particular work. So Draupadi and Breast Giver by Mahashweta Devi is the right answer. We always have to study in relevance with the previous year questions. Okay, literature is so wide. If we study something else other than previous year question, we might end up studying a lot of irrelevant things. You have to be very specific about what you have to study for competitive exams. And this question could easily be solved through understanding of the index. You see, post-colonial literature, we have Trinity in the post-colonial literature. We have Edward Said, we have Gayatri Spivak Chakravarti and Homi Bhabha. These 3 people are also known as the founding figures of post-colonial literature. So you must always remember the major works written by these 3 writers with the publication years. For example, we have Orientalism published in 1978 by Edward Said. In Other Worlds by Gayatri Chakravarti, 1987. Then we have Nation and Narration, that we have discussed, published in 1990 by Homi Bhabha. So remember the titles and the publication years as well as the index that we have just discussed. Of course, you have to go through the key concepts of all these writers. Alright, so let's now talk about another work that is in the option, which is The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism by Max Weber, 1904. Max Weber talks about how religious belief helped create modern capitalism. Max Weber simply says that capitalism was developed by Western Europe and America. Okay, so he is saying that Protestants were, like, you might have heard Catholics and Protestants. So Protestants are Christians, and because of Protestants, this capitalism started. Okay, so these Protestants used to live in Europe and North America. So it is the Protestants' belief that is perfectly suited for the capitalist economic belief or behavior. Protestants believe that the success in life is because the God chose them to be successful. Now, this is the belief of Protestant, that if you are successful, it's because God has chosen you to be successful. So this is the narrative. अब आपको God ने choose किया है. God has chosen you. That's why you are successful. So now what Protestants started doing is that they started working very hard. They started saving money. They stopped spending their money, and they became getting rich and rich. Okay, Protestants started getting rich just to prove that God has chosen them. So people started working hard, they started living a simple life, and they started saving more money rather than squandering of the money in luxurious life. That's how you become rich. How you become rich? You earn more, you save more. Okay, you don't improve your standard of living. That's how you become rich. But what people do is that if you get the money, you buy iPhone, you will always remain poor if you do not save the money. So that's the Protestant belief, is to earn more, do hard work and save the money. Capitalism is the beginning point where through the Protestant religion or Protestant category of Christianity, which led to the modern capitalism. So this work was revolutionary because it was written back then in 1904, beginning of the century, way before these post-colonial literature. Okay, so 1904, that is Max Weber's work, and that's what we found in the question, in the options. The other options in the question are not important. You don't have to study because they are the minor works. Simply remember the titles and the publication years. And in the next video, we will continue with other questions. We will discuss more questions in more depth. Okay, so I will see you soon. That's it for this. Thank you.